everyone, welcome to another episode of Gorgeously Bold Moments. For those of you that are tuning in for the very first time, my name is Lesego, the co-founder and a fashion designer at Gorgeously Bold Boutique. I'm very excited about today's topic. We are going to be talking about life coaching. A lot of us need guidance in our lives, whether to pursue a certain career or to unlock potentials within ourselves. Sometimes we have a whole lot of potentials, but we really need a little bit of assistance or a little bit of a push towards the right direction. I've invited a very good friend of mine. Her name is Makhotso. She's the owner and CEO of Heart Work. Just the word Heart Work. Whatever it is that she does it from the heart. The name of the business is Heart Work Coaching and Consulting. Friend, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Guys, can you see the beauty? I'm always captivated by her beauty. I have always told her this from the very first time I met her. Which year did we meet?
It was 2016.
Imagine.
I needed an emergency dress, and yeah.
Yes. It was about an emergency dress, right? And I remember when you first walked into the shop, my husband and I were like, "You look like someone we know. Your face is very, very familiar." And I still remember that I told you that you look like my cousin. And I remember I phoned my cousin's mom right there, and they're like, "You have another child in the shop. She's absolutely beautiful. People, look at her."
Thank you.
Makhotso, my friend, thank you so much for being here. Personally, for me, you know, when I always hear about coaching, somebody is a coach, and you know, I always link them very close. Correct me if I'm wrong. I link them very closely to a psychologist. You know, what is the difference between the two?
So I think that's a commonly held sort of association,
Yeah.
but they are very, very different. And the one thing that even with my clients I'm very deliberate about sharing is that there is a space where if it's something that I'm not able to support you with, then I would then maybe suggest that you do seek the services of a therapist or a psychologist. So psychology is really looking at underlying causes. It looks at mental health issues. It looks at looking back at your past as to why it is that certain things are happening in your life, and then being able to work through those and supporting you through those. But it's very much under the clinical medical umbrella. The Health Professionals Council is the governing body of psychologists. So it's a very clinical medical intervention, and it's a very important one. But it's very different from coaching. So coaching is very present and future focused, and so with a coach, I think a simple example would be, for instance, right now if I am training for a marathon, and then I decide that I need to actually get fit in the next 12 months, but I realize that I don't have the necessary tools, knowledge, skills, whatever it is, to be able to get myself to that. So I would enlist the services of a coach to say, hey, I need to get my mind, my body ready for me to be able to compete in this thing. So the coach would then support me from exactly where I am to get me to the point that I need to get to. So it's very much present and future focused. And generally with coaching also, it's never wanting to or a lot of coaches that are really determined to get your results are not wanting to stay with you forever. It's really about, let's get you to the result that you're desiring to get, and then let's move on to the next thing or up level. So we cannot be coaching on the same thing permanently or forever. So I think they are very different modalities, very much under a similar umbrella, but like I said, psychologists, university, you study, 7 years, HPCSA, and coaching, very different, very future focused, very present focused, very zoned in on a particular issue that you might be needing to work on. And that's for people, just that would be kind of the difference that I'd like to elaborate on.
But say, for instance, do people really know when they come to you? Okay, assuming I'm a client, do I how do I know as a person whether, you know, to go to a coach or to go to a psychologist? Have you at any given point of your career had people that you know that I'm not the person to see, I'm not a psychologist, but they have come then to you? How do they know that they've come to the right place or the wrong place? How do you because I'm kind of like thinking, if I need a coach, clearly I need help, right? Then what helps to inform me that I should go to either a psychologist or a coach? What are they? How should I know?
Okay, so I think sometimes it's not very easy sometimes for an individual to know or to tell, but like I said, I think with coaching there's a very specific thing perhaps that you're trying to work towards. So for instance, I work a lot with individuals maybe in their careers who are transitioning. So if you are looking to get into, whether it's a new job, whether it's a senior role, whatever it is, but it's clearly defined perhaps in your head and your mind, or you have an idea of what it is that you're needing to deal with and you're trying to get there, and a coach is meant to supplement your efforts because you don't necessarily have the tools or the resources and the skills and the knowledge to be able to get yourself there. So a coach then works with you and journeys with you to get you to that place. And uses a lot of the modalities, obviously, of speaking to you, of using certain tools to be able to get you there. But I think a lot of the training that I also underwent as a coach was very clear around, you know, there are certain things that you will need to be able to observe within your clients to then be able to say that this is beyond the scope of what coaching can do. And if even though in coaching we do deal with underlying things, because there's always underlying things that, you know, determine how it is that we show up in the world. But if you do get a sense as a coach, it is a responsible thing to do, to then be like, you know, I think this is outside the ambit of what it is that we're dealing with, and I would suggest that you do go to therapy. So even in my agreements with individuals, it's always very clear to say therapy is a different modality, and if I do at any point feel that this is outside what it is that the coaching process can assist with, then I will, you know, bring it up and broach it. The process is always confidential, whether coaching or therapy, but I think what we do agree on upfront is that if there's at any point where I feel like this is outside of the scope of what it is that we've agreed on, I do have to bring it up and then, you know, give you just the insight, and then you can then take it forward for yourself.
You know, earlier on when I was talking to you, we when we're talking about coaching, obviously the way I would imagine it, a lot of people come and offload, and this is where you sort of unpack and help them to, you know, to discover or, you know, put themselves together. But you as a coach, with all that you're dealing with, you know, obviously, I mean, there's a lot of things that are coming out of you to support people. You know, how do you fill yourself up? You know, does a coach need a coach? You know, do you need to go and refill elsewhere when you have been, I don't know whether the word drained would be the right one, I suppose not, because you are sort of offering your services to people. But where do you go to refill yourself? What do you actually need to refill yourself? And where do you go? How do you put yourself together to prepare yourself, you know, to offer help to another person that comes through to you?
So I think absolutely. I think any individual who is in a service industry, particularly in this kind of space where you're really holding space for people and taking on a lot so that you can journey with people.
I can imagine it must be a lot.
It
must be a lot.
It is. So you know, I think of clients at 9 o'clock at night, at 10 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, anytime. You know, I'll be like, oh my goodness, I think this would be a brilliant idea for this client. Or at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, actually, I haven't spoken to that client. And, you know, so it's all encompassing. So it would be very important for me to also get, you know, refueled. So I absolutely. And I think that that's also something important for clients to then look at when they look for coaches, to be like, is this person also on a journey of developing themselves? Are they, you know, taking personal development very seriously in their own lives? Are they doing things that are meant to make sure that when I get to them as a client, that I'm getting the very best of this person? So, you know, I think for me personally, it's an important part of what I do. It's not even necessarily whether I want to or not. It's that if I do want to be a good coach, I have to also then be able to like get the services of another coach. You know, personal development is super key
100%.
In the space, and then also, you know, taking, I think, you know, the holistic approach to things. So I'm a huge believer in mindfulness. So I meditate quite a lot. I like spending time alone, just to kind of recalibrate and really be like, okay, so what is mine, what I've taken on from clients, and also there's also professional supervision that you can undergo, and that you have to actually undergo. So if you are on the journey to being an accredited coach, so you have to then meet up with senior coaches, where you then undergo a period of just being like, you know, this is what I've dealt with in the last 6 months or in the last 4 months, depending on how regularly you go for supervision, where you would share that, you know, this is what I've been through, this is how I've been handling it, and get insight from somebody obviously who's a little bit more experienced than you.
Know, I like what you've just said now, that you meditate. We spoke about it just now. You meditate a lot, you know. And for me personally, it's one of the things that I wish I could do, you know, quietening the mind, you know, getting away. I mean, there's distractions around us everywhere, right? We have social media that's very destructive. We have TV, very destructive. Even the books that we read, sometimes they are destructive. You know, the one thing that I struggle with is that how do you quiet? Because I have tried, perhaps maybe I have not found the best meditating method. I don't know, you know. I have tried to meditate, but I find myself like, if I on my own try to meditate, my mind just starts wandering. I'm all over the show, like I start thinking about, and then I'm beating myself up, like quieting the mind. But how is it possible? How do you do it? You know, or what advice what skills can you share with us in terms of where do we even begin? Because for me, I've tried, but when I really put off everything, whether TV, phone, books, nothing, but my mind just doesn't stop. You know, how do you quieten it?
I think the most important thing that we need to recognize is that I think we sometimes are we punish ourselves and our minds for doing what they are meant to be doing, like, because the mind is meant to think and it's meant to process
and it's meant to work.
That's literally, you know,
yeah.
And then we get into this frenzy of feeling bad about it doing what its function is. So I think the one thing that I've learned over the years, so I used to be like, I am not a meditator as well. Like, I can't and I won't do it, or I can't do it. Let me say, I used to say I can't do it. And then I've also just come to an understanding that meditation can look different for different people as well. So I think let's not get stuck in meditation is, you know, sitting on the floor, yoga mat, zen, you know,
I'm one of those, like, maybe this is not going to get you that, because I want to do the like, but it just doesn't work. But anyway,
it doesn't have to be that. You know, I know of people who meditate in nature. They're just going for a walk, and the fact that your mind is just present. Literally, that's what it is. It's like, I'm here fully. And some people, you know, because we're gifted in different things, I can maybe say for you, for instance, you know, what you create, your art, the clothes that you make. I remember, you know, we used to discuss this, and like, how did you come up with this? And you're like, I was just in the zone. And for some people, it expresses itself differently, but being able to recognize that as a moment where you are fully present, and meditation can take different forms for different people. So I think let's not try and make it a one size fits all, where everybody has to be on a mat and zen and all of that. It doesn't have to look like that for you. And I also
I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah,
because I think I've been looking at other people meditating, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to do it the same way that you're doing it. And you're right, when I'm behind my sewing machine, when I'm working, I'm with myself, I'm within myself. So can I consider that my meditating?
That is your practice,
right?
That is your practice.
Wow,
and
I've learned something.
That really is your practice. That's when you are in unison, like your whole self is here.
You know why? Because in my mind, the way I understood meditation, like, everything would be at a standstill, even the mind will freeze. And I think this is why I've been beating myself up for so long, like, but it cannot stop, you know. But I like what you've just said, like, be within yourself. That is a form of meditation. Guys, I have learned something today. I hope you guys have also learned something very, very amazing. So back in the years, I'm sure you know this for a fact also, you must have heard it, back in the years, especially in the black community, the professions that were well recognized, would be your doctors, your teachers, and what else? Lawyers, So I imagine back then, if you came home and told your parents that you want to become a coach, how would you even start that? What is that, So what I wanted to find out from you, do you find that still today, do you find that, if we talk about the race, that do you find that our black people, do you think that they're still a little bit resistant to coaching? Do we deprive ourselves of help, or, what are your thoughts on that?
I think, look, from an exposure perspective, I think we did have very limited options in terms of what it is that we're exposed to. So, people went into careers that they knew of, and that's why you would find that there was such a large concentration of teachers and all these professions, because that's what was there and available and what people knew of. But I do think with the evolution of the world and how connected we are, we look at YouTube, we look at the online digital communities that have been created, and even especially in just the lockdown period, you just look at how people have literally, you're having conversations, IG lives, YouTube lives, whatever it is, conversations with people who are halfway across the world. So how interconnected we've become, but basically how smaller the world has become, and how much exposure now has become, or how much exposure we have to things that we didn't necessarily have previously. So I do think that even though there might still be a little bit of maybe not clarity around what it is that, for instance, like coaching is for a lot of people, I do find that it is gaining momentum, certainly in the spaces that I'm in, but obviously I'm in spaces where people are coaches, so all of us know what it is. So there is, I think, an awakening and an understanding of the fact that, hey, I don't have to do this life thing alone and suffer through things. I can actually reach out for help, and I can tap into resources, and it can, whether it's a coach or whether it's actually a psychologist, where you're like, hey man, I'm dealing with a lot and I feel like I'm overwhelmed, let me reach out to someone. So I think there's a developing and much like a growing sentiment around like African people particularly, to say, hey man, this is heavy, like I need to reach out to someone.
And also I think we have I don't know whether it's a black thing, but we have this thing that, I can do it all. I don't need help, But as a professional or any other person, at what point does one really say, guys, I need a coach? What would it take? Should I request for a coach services when I'm at a breaking point? Or should I get a coach when I am perhaps on a journey to something beautiful, whether career, whatever, someone to walk hand in hand with me? At what point do I decide, like, I'm falling apart, I need someone to lift me up, or I need someone to hold my hand as I'm entering a new world and support me? What do you say to that?
I think the one thing that I really want to make very clear is that the fact that we're so different, and our thresholds for things and for life experiences and for experiences is very different. So what would for you be, I'm starting a new job, you're excited, you just want to get started, you want to get in there, and you are like, you're ready to go. For someone else at the end of the world, oh my goodness, a new environment, I have to adapt, new people, this is scaring me, this is freaking me out, so same experience, but very different sort of reactions to that. So I think it's for individuals to, be within themselves, to say, I get a sense in myself if it's something that's causing you a little bit of, whether it's anxiety or discomfort, and you feel like, I might need somebody to just walk this journey with me. And look, like I'm saying, the journey doesn't necessarily have to be like 50 million sessions or 10 sessions. It can just be like, I just need someone to just help me as I start this particular part of my life, like I'm saying, if you're starting a new job and you feel like, you know, I just need someone to just help me through just understanding the context of a new environment and all of that, and just work with that, through that with me. You can do that. So I think our thresholds are different. So allow yourself to, you know, to experience things as they are for you, because I know that there's a tendency sometimes to be like, this is such a small thing. Why is it?
Or one person is getting a coach, so let me also get
exactly. And all of us are different. So honor what you and your spirit and what you in your mental, psychological, emotional body, what's coming up for you. And if it's saying to you, hey man, you know, this feels a little bit heavy, and I really do feel like I would like somebody to just, whether it's just to clarify my thinking with, you know, walk this journey with, and move to the next level with, then absolutely procure the services of a coach. Or sometimes it's just a case of, I just need to speak to a friend, you know, I just need a moment, an hour with my friend.
So now, speaking of that, I mean, you're a coach, I'm your friend, or not even me, let's say other people, baratang, your friend, you know. So where do you draw the line? Like, we have friends with maybe problems or guidance, whatever it needs, but then do you advise them as friends, or do you say, listen, I'd like to help you, but I'm not going to offer my services right now, I'm not even going to offer my advice, come and see me. So where do you draw the line, like to say, this is a client, this is a friend? How do you do that?
So you see, the thing with the coaching process is that I don't give advice. So the premise of coaching is that individuals always have the answers within themselves, and what I am doing is facilitating a process of excavating that. So we are working through with Lesego to get Lesego to give Lesego the answers, because I don't know
but
the
what
context.
I mean is, I'm coming from a point of you running a business. Okay, you and I were sitting, we're having a drink. And I need some sort of, the answers are within me. Perhaps I need someone to help, someone like you who can help me to unlock certain potentials within me. But we're having a drink. Do you stop talking and saying, okay, now this is a business conversation, you have to sign up? Because, I mean, you're not running a charity case, you have to make money. So how do you then say, what do you do in that case?
You know where I was going with the sort of the process of coaching is that coaching is very different from advising. So when I'm with my friend, I'm absolutely, we are in there. I can say, you know, I think this is what you should do. As a coach, I can't do that, and I don't do that. But in a space where I am with my friend, it's very clear that if you're coming to me as a friend, you're asking for advice, and I am happy to give you that advice as my friend, and I'm not going to charge you for that. There's no charging and anything. And also, if we did,
it's good to know.
It's just absolutely like, if I'm advising you, and if we're having a conversation and we're engaging as friends, then there's a very clear delineation. And also, I'm very mindful also of who I'm able to offer then services to, because of perhaps a relationship or because of whatever history we might have. So you know, there are some instances where I'm like, I might not necessarily be the best person to offer you the services, these services, and then you can obviously then maybe I could refer you, or you can find like alternative service provider. But the key is that in those spaces, in a coaching space, I'm not advising you. But when I'm with my friends, obviously it's free fall. I just want to talk.
Now we know. Now we know. I mean, I remember years ago, maybe about 4 years ago or so, one of the things that you and I used to talk about a lot in the shop, we used to talk about protecting our energies. You know, this was something, we never ran out of topics around protecting our energies. You know, so a lot of us would understand that if you protect your energies, we are most likely talking about staying away from negative people or negative family members, or avoiding negative whatever. You know, anything that could be negative. So we sort of like say it's toxic. So, but as a person, I'd like to know that at what point then do you know that perhaps maybe you are a toxic person yourself? I mean, obviously we have to try and keep ourselves in check. You know, it's always very good and well to say others are, but everybody else is toxic. But how do you know that you are, you know, self-assessment that you are toxic, and if so, what steps do you take to clean yourself up before you can, point fingers at others? Because I think, especially on social media, I see a lot on TikTok, Facebook, and whatnot, where everybody's saying, stay away from toxic people. I don't want toxic family members. But what if you are the toxic person? How do we know that we ourselves are toxic people? And how do we clean ourselves up?
And I don't think there's a clear cut answer that I can give, but I think from just my own personal reflection, it would be exactly that like reflect on whatever situations are coming up, and here's the thing about life is that it gives you patterns, it gives you clues, and there's a thread that runs through certain things, and it does call for you, and I think it's been called this, I think Oprah calls it like the whispers, and there's things that say to you, okay, that was like a little stone, a pebble, but then now it's a brick, and then now it's like you don't want to get to the point where now you're having a brick wall fall on you. So sometimes it's just a case of, am I reflecting enough on the situations that are happening around me or to me, or with people around me, and am I having an honest assessment of what my part is in things, and that's the truth, like, and even to with some of the not so great things that happen, how did I end up in a situation where this was even open to happening to me? I know even people will talk about toxic workspaces and that, but did I then allow myself to be in a space where I was giving away my power? And did I allow myself to be in a space where I opened myself up to, people actually then finding it easy to just be able to bully, So there's a myriad of things, and obviously it's not just about you saying that I've invited this, but it's just to say, did I give away my power? And when I recognized that this was happening, what was then my response? So I think it's just about being able to say, what is the common thread in these things, and what is the pattern that I'm seeing, and then when you recognize that, doing something about it. So it can be whether it's seeking assistance, seeking support.
But I guess, like, for instance, let's talk about maybe a toxic situation, especially around family. And I like the fact that you are talking about, did I allow myself. So in a family situation where there's a lot of toxic traits, how do you escape that without breaking? Can you really remove yourself from a toxic situation without ruining relationships?
I think it's very difficult. I don't want to
especially
lie.
with family.
I think it's very, very difficult, and it's a challenge that a lot of people face. But I think it's also about, like, what am I trying to create? And this is obviously not speaking about people who aren't able to create space and all of that.
Because not everybody can, right?
And situations are absolutely they have their unique elements that we can't that are not generic. But I do think are you able? Are there certain things that you can then be able to put in place for yourself to say if the response in my family to a fight is to shout and scream and to swear at everybody, what am I choosing? Am I choosing different? And sometimes the choice is not easy because that's all you know. But if you feel that, what do I want different for myself?
What do I want? Like, put yourself first.
What do I want different for myself? If this is what I know, but what I want is something different. How do I then continue to make the choice? So it won't be easy, obviously, the first time and the second time, and maybe even the 100th time. But eventually, if it's something that you deeply, deeply want, you then are able to say, okay, firstly, when there's this raising of voices and stuff, I know that I don't have to engage, and I don't have to shout back, and I don't have to,
I don't want to be part of this.
I don't have to be part of this. And like I'm saying, you might not do it the first time. The first time you might also shout back and then scream back. And the 50th time you might still shout back and scream back. And the 100th time.
100%. I totally agree.
But you grant yourself grace to say, I still want different. And that's okay. And it's okay to falter as we develop, a different way of being. But then as we develop that different way of being, we have to fight for whatever the vision is that you're seeing, because you know that it's worth it and because you want different.
Guys, this is getting so interesting. And I'm sure a lot of you have also experienced it. Either you've been a toxic person yourself or have been in toxic situations. I mean, for me, I'm interested in knowing how you're dealing with it, how you're handling it. Do you shout back? Do you take yourself out of situations? And if you do, how do you do that? Let's share comments. Let's interact. I mean, this is all about creating moments. I'd like us to give us your views. I mean, I'm learning a whole lot of things here, and I'd like to also hear from you. Let us all learn from each other. And I remember years ago, was it years ago, 2 years ago, you know, you came to the shop, you were very excited to tell me about your trip to Bali. You're going to Bali, right? Was it Bali?
Yeah, it was Bali.
And one of the questions that I asked was, so who are you going with? Because I'm curious like that. And like, I'm going alone. Like, how are you going alone? You know? I mean, it is, you came back, you were very excited. You were very, I think, if I remember correctly, one of the things that you said was, you know, how come you were, you know, you discovered a lot of things about yourself, you know. Share with us that experience. I mean, not everybody travels alone. I know that it's yeah, not everybody does, but she did it, and I was inspired by that. How was it for you?
Sure. I think that experience in particular, and I don't know what it is about, whether it's island living or whether, I think Bali in particular, I actually, you know, I generally don't want to go back to places because it's like, I mean, there's so much of the world to see, but that's definitely one place that I still want to go back to. But I feel like it was almost as if I had been, after the whirlwind of the year that I had at the time, it was almost as if it was like, okay, pause and return to yourself. It was literally me just going back to myself, and I think solo travel I think allows you to do that, because there isn't you know, a lot of the times that I've traveled with other people, obviously there's itineraries of, you know, what you both agree to do and all of that, and this was just literally being like, so what do I want to do? So in the mornings it was literally, how are you feeling? What do you want to do? And how are you feeling wasn't just about, oh hey, like, you know, I feel like you know, what do I feel like for breakfast? But it was like, how are you feeling?
What do you mean? I don't
understand. Like it really was a check-in with myself. So if I am, so, and that's something that I've adopted now over the last few years as well, where it's like, how am I feeling? And generally I'll sometimes rate it, where it's, you know, sometimes it really is a 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10. But I'm walking around consciously knowing that I want it to be better. And that for me then informs how I navigate the day, or how I navigate whatever situation. So it creates an awareness where I'm not just saying I'm having a bad day, but it's saying, you know, it might have started off a bit iffy, but I'm consciously making an effort to say, okay, so if somebody does cut me off at the robots, I don't engage today. Like today is not the day. I'm just not in the space, and I don't want to fight because I'm already in such a, you know, not such a great mood. So you know, when you're happy, you don't care. Like, it's just like, ah, whatever, he cut me off. But when you're in a fragile, not so great mood, you know, oh my gosh, they've cut me off. Now my life is a mess. Everything, you know, one little thing, and then
one
life
little
is,
thing can spoil your day.
You know, everything is major and huge. So I think what Bali introduced to me was literally checking in with myself to be like, okay, so if I'm feeling this way, am I consciously choosing to feel this way throughout the day, and really making decisions around, okay, so if I want to feel different, what am I doing? So it was like, okay, so today I feel like having a massage 3 times a day, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I did. Today I want to spend the whole day at the beach, that's what I'm going to do. And I enjoyed the ease of the space, of the place. I mean, it's a lovely, beautiful place. So it does allow for...
I've never been to Bali, I can't even. But I mean, I saw your pictures, like, oh, beautiful and peaceful.
So it does allow for really just enjoyment. And I think obviously there's many places around the world that do that, but for me that particular place allowed me to really just say, okay, so if I am feeling this way, how am I showing up the rest of the day to make sure that if I'm feeling... And I mean, I wouldn't say I felt like a 3 out of 10 because I was on holiday. It was lovely. But it was like, but if I wasn't necessarily like an 8, 9, 10 out of 10, it's like, okay, so I'm working towards that. So, you know, am I enjoying the fact that I'm tasting, you know, this food for the first time and enjoying it? So really, like calling myself back to those moments and really being present. So it introduced me to that, and I think I've kept that now for several years, and it's been I think it was a very beautiful sort of end of a chapter and introduction to the next chapter, because my life hasn't been the same ever since.
When you told me about the trip going along, when you came back, you were very excited, fulfilled, and you were at peace, and also your pictures, everything was like, oh wow, that was an inspiration. Although I've never really done solo trips, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'd like to explore it at some point in my life, but why do you think that? I mean, I know that a lot of people don't spend time alone, be it at home, work, whatever. People don't. Some people don't have a choice, really. Yeah. But most people tend to choose to have people around them. Do you think we could be? Why do you think that is? Like, are we escaping from something? Do we not want to face ourselves? You don't want to go fetch yourself, be with yourself, and what do you think that could be the reason?
Sure. So, what I think for a lot of us, spending time alone means that we have to face the things that are uncomfortable. So the things that we cover up with food, with alcohol, with keeping ourselves busy, with social media, with all the different things that we use to occupy our time. So it's very challenging sometimes to be alone and to face whatever it is that is, whether it's causing discomfort in your life or things that we don't necessarily know how to deal with or tackle. So for people who generally have a hard time spending time alone, it's that having to face ourselves that's very difficult. So you'd rather fill it up with things and people and busyness.
And the thing is, you really can't run away from yourself.
No.
At the end of the day, it's still you and yourself.
No.
And we always talk about knowing yourself. But the only way, I guess, one of the ways to know yourself, better still, the only way to know yourself is to spend time with yourself, So I think, guys, it's very important to spend. Well, I know this. It's important. I've just never done a solo trip. I spend some time by myself, And I think it's really, really important that we try and know ourselves internally. I think a lot of us know what the external part of ourselves, but it's important that we visit ourselves from time to time. It's also important to meditate. I know, at least I'm very happy to know that I'm not meditating in the traditional way. I'm meditating in my sewing way, So that really gives me comfort, because for the longest of time I was really, really worried that I cannot meditate. I have been trying, but thank God Makhotso is here today. She's cleared it up for me. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you so much for always tuning in. Please remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to hit the bell, and remember, most importantly, remember to comment. Please remember, if you need help, let's reach out. And I know it's a lot of us, we don't want to ask for help when we need help. It's okay to ask for help. Unlock your potential. She's here. She's a beautiful coach, very strong and very warm at the same time. Please reach out to her. Let's meet again next week Friday. Thank you so much. Joined by a very, very good friend of mine, Makhotso. Makhotso is a coach, a co-founder. Sorry. Not a co-founder. You're the only one. Yeah.